The red dust fields of the uncharted moon stretched far in every direction like a silent ocean. Commander Elias Ward stood on a ridge of cracked stone, his visor reflecting the swirling clouds of fine sand below. The wind moved in soft waves, lifting grains into the air until everything looked blurred and distant. Elias had traveled to many planets as an explorer for the Terran Expeditionary Force. But something about this place felt different. It felt quiet in a way that was almost too quiet, as if the land was holding its breath. He checked his scanner for the third time. A faint pulse flashed on the screen, a repeating signal that had drawn him here. It was weak, but steady, like someone whispering from far away. The signal did not match any human technology, and that made him both curious and cautious. Unknown source, unknown language, unknown pattern, he murmured to himself. Just perfect. He adjusted his helmet and stepped forward. His boots sank slightly into the soft dust, leaving deep footprints that the wind quickly tried to erase. As he walked toward the signal, he kept his hand near his holstered sidearm, even though he hoped he wouldn't need it. Elias believed exploration was more about understanding than conflict. But he also knew the universe could be unpredictable. After a long hike across uneven ground, he reached the edge of a deep crater. The scanner beeped faster now. The signal was coming from inside. Elias knelt and looked down. At the bottom of the crater, half buried in dust, was a small metallic craft. It was shaped like an arrowhead, sleek and silver, with glowing blue lines along the sides. It definitely wasn't human. So that's you, Elias whispered. You're not from home. He slowly climbed down the crater wall, careful not to slip on the loose dust. When he reached the craft, he brushed sand away from its surface. The metal was warm, as if the vehicle had only recently crashed. There were no markings he recognized, only smooth curves and glowing lines that pulsed like a heartbeat. A soft hum came from inside. Then the front panel of the craft shifted, opening like a flower unfolding its petals. Elias stepped back instinctively, his muscles tense. A figure emerged from the craft. At first, Elias saw only armor silver plates shaped to fit the body, with a faint blue glow running across the joints. The figure stood tall, taller than any human he had ever met. The helmet was smooth and rounded, hiding the face completely. The stranger raised their hands slowly, in a gesture that seemed peaceful, not hostile. Elias felt his heartbeat rise. He knew he was witnessing something rare, something historic. First contact. The stranger pressed a button on the side of their helmet. The smooth mask separated with a soft hiss. The helmet lifted away, revealing a face with calm, clear eyes and soft, gentle features. Her skin had a faint silver tone that shimmered in the dusty light. Her hair, long and pale, was tied behind her head in a simple knot. Elias stared, not out of fear, but out of wonder. He had never seen anyone like her. She stepped closer, her expression peaceful and curious. Without thinking, Elias whispered, "Beautiful." He didn't mean it in a personal way. He meant the moment itself, the calm silence, the strange silver armor, the soft glow of her skin under the red light of the dust fields. It was the beauty of discovery, the beauty of something new and unexpected. The alien woman tilted her head as if trying to understand his reaction. Her voice was gentle when she spoke, smooth, like clear water. "I am Saren," she said, "guardian of the Helian Alliance." "I mean no harm." Elias relaxed slightly. "Commander Elias Ward," he replied. "Terran Expeditionary Force, and I also mean no harm." Saren looked at the crater around them, her eyes scanning the area like she was searching for something. She touched her damaged craft with a soft sigh. "My scout pod failed during travel," she said. "I was escaping attackers. The crash damaged my systems." Elias nodded slowly. "Your signal drew me here. I wasn't sure what I'd find. First contact wasn't exactly on my schedule today." "First contact," Saren repeated, tasting the words carefully. "So your people have not met mine yet," Elias said. "We're still new to this part of space." She stepped closer again, studying him with interest. "You traveled alone into a storm field to investigate an unknown signal." Elias lifted his shoulders. "Well, yes. Exploring is kind of my job. Small, almost amused smile touched her lips. Your bravery is noted. Before Elias could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. The dust around their feet began to shift, swirling faster than the natural wind. Elias turned quickly, hand on his sidearm. "What is that?" he asked. Serin's expression changed from calm to alert. "Energy signatures," she said. "Unstable. Something is approaching." The dust exploded upward a few meters away. Elias shielded his eyes as a shape rose from the swirling cloud. It looked like a creature made of shining fragments, pieces of metallic crystal floating around a bright core of energy. Its movements were sharp and unpredictable, like broken glass spinning in a storm. Elias had never seen anything like it. "What is that thing?" he asked, stepping back. A nullborn Saren said, her voice steady. "A creature created from corrupted energy. They consume anything that vibrates with life or power." The creature shifted its glowing core toward them, as if sensing their presence. Small shards swirled around it, rising and falling like the petals of a mechanical flower. Elias held his ground. "That doesn't sound friendly." "It is not," Saren said. "Prepare yourself." She stepped forward, her silver armor glowing brighter. Elias moved beside her, drawing his sidearm and aiming at the creature. The wind roared louder, carrying dust and small stones around them. The nullborn moved suddenly, sending a wave of sharp fragments through the air. Elias dodged left, diving behind a rock. Saren raised her arm, creating a blue shield that deflected the incoming shards. Elias fired a few shots. The energy bolts hit the creature, but it only flickered and reformed. As if rebuilding itself instantly, "It's not working." Elias called out. "It cannot be destroyed with simple weapons," Saren said, "but we can weaken it." The creature shot a beam of energy toward them. Saren pushed Elias aside, the beam striking the ground where he had stood. The earth cracked, sending dust flying into the air. Elias stood again, breathing hard. "Any ideas?" "Yes," Saren said. "Follow me." She sprinted up the crater wall with surprising speed, her armor enhancing her movements. Elias followed, his legs burning as he climbed. The nullborn pursued them, sending bursts of energy that shook the ground. When they reached the top, Saren raised her hands. The blue lines on her armor glowed intensely. She touched the ground gently, releasing a wave of energy that spread across the crater like a soft pulse. The nullborn hesitated. For a moment, it looked confused, its floating shards slowing. "Now!" Saren shouted. Elias fired again, aiming at the glowing core this time. The creature flickered violently. Saren raised both arms and released another wave of energy. The core cracked with a sound like shattering glass. The nullborn collapsed, its shards falling softly to the ground like broken light. Elias breathed out slowly. "That was intense." Saren nodded. "There may be more. The dust fields attract them." Elias looked around the red landscape. What had begun as a simple exploration mission had turned into something far greater. "What were you doing here, Saren?" he asked. "What are the nullborn after?" Saren looked up at the sky, her eyes thoughtful and a little worried. "I came here because the nullborn are becoming stronger," she said. "I feared they would reach your system soon." "Great," Elias said softly. "So Earth might be in danger?" "Yes," she answered. "And your people do not yet know of the threat." Elias took a deep breath. The wind around them slowed, and the dust settled again. He looked at Saren, realizing that their meeting was not just chance. It was a warning. "A beginning? Well," he said with a small smile, "it seems we have a lot to talk about." Saren returned the smile, calm and steady. And so, among the silent red dust fields, the first bond between human and Helion began with danger, with curiosity, and with the unexpected beauty of discovery. The red dust had barely settled when Elias and Saren stood among the shattered remains of the nullborn creature. The quiet of the dust fields was deceptive. Elias wiped sweat from his brow and scanned the horizon. The sun, a dull orange disk behind a haze of dust, barely lit the rolling hills of crimson sand. He could still feel the hum of the Nullborn's energy in the air. It was as if the planet itself remembered their presence. Saren knelt beside the broken shards of the creature. Her fingers glowed faintly as she touched the fragments. "They are not fully destroyed," she said. "This was only one. Others will come, and soon." Elias straightened, his mind racing. "Others? How many?" She shook her head. "I do not know. Enough to destroy unprepared colonies. The dust fields are a staging ground. They will move outward to nearby systems." Elias glanced at the horizon again. "So, they're coming to Earth eventually. Or maybe to Mars, or Titan." "Yes," she said calmly. "You have no defenses yet. Not against them." Elias's jaw tightened. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. He had faced many dangers as an explorer, but nothing like this. And yet there was something in Saren's presence that gave him focus. He had seen aliens before, but none so composed, so confident, so calm in the face of raw danger. "Then we need to warn your fleet and mine," Elias said. "We need to stop them before they spread." Saren looked at him with a mix of curiosity and admiration. "You are different from what I expected, Elias Ward. Humans are young. Yes, but you are brave, persistent, creative." Elias laughed softly. "Creative? That's one word for it. Dangerous, maybe." "Dangerous is useful," she replied with a small smile. "Especially when fighting the Nullborn." I nodded. "Then let's get to work." They moved toward the remains of her scout pod. The crash had left it badly damaged, with one wing twisted and the control panel sparking occasionally. Elias knelt beside the console and began examining it. Saren watched her expression, a mixture of patience and curiosity. "You understand technology?" she said. "But this is advanced Hellion tech. Few humans could even touch it." "I've fixed worse with less," Elias said with a grin. "Give me a chance." He examined the energy conduits, wires, and glowing circuits. Using his portable tools, he began repairing damaged circuits, rerouting energy flows, and stabilizing the core. Saren assisted by guiding him to sensitive parts, warning him when the energy spikes could fry his hands. By the time the twin sons of the red sky were halfway across the horizon, the pod systems hummed with renewed energy. The blue lines along its frame glowed softly again. Elias wiped dust from his hands and stepped back. "It's stable," he said. "Not perfect, but stable enough to move." Saren nodded approvingly. "Good work, human. Your species surprises me. I believed you were still untested. Yet you adapt quickly." "Thanks," Elias replied, smiling. "Adaptability is kind of our specialty." For a long moment, they stood in silence, listening to the wind. Then Saren spoke again. "You need to understand why I am here. Why the Nullborn exist." Elias leaned against the pod, curious. "Go on. The Nullborn are corrupted energy constructs," Saren explained. "Created long ago by a race that wished to control life through power. They consume energy, life, and even matter. Their goal is not conquest in the way you think. They erase existence where they go, leaving nothing but emptiness." Elias's eyes widened. "Nothing at all? Just gone?" "Yes. Planets, colonies, even small moons. Nothing remains." He ran a hand over his face. "And they're heading this way." Saren nodded. "Yes, that is why I came. I am part of the Hellion Alliance, a coalition of worlds that monitor and contain threats like these. I tracked them to this system, but my pod was attacked. I barely escaped." "Attacked?" Elias asked. "By what?" Saren's expression grew serious. "By agents who wish to harness the Nullborn for their own purposes. They are rogue machines, similar to the Nullborn, but controlled. If they reach your worlds before we can act, it will be disastrous." Elias considered this. Humans had recently begun exploring other systems. Colonizing Mars and Titan, they were still young compared to the civilizations of the Hellion Alliance. Yet here he was, standing beside a warrior from another galaxy, facing a threat beyond imagination. "So," Elias said finally, "you want to stop the Nullborn?" "I want to protect my people. That means we work together. Saren nodded. Yes. Together we have a chance. He grinned. Then let's not waste time. They spent the next hours preparing for what lay ahead. Elias showed Saren the patterns of the dust fields, how the wind shifted the sand, and where rocks and ridges could provide cover. Saren taught him ways to sense energy, subtle vibrations that indicated the presence of null-born creatures nearby. As night fell, the red sun dipping below the horizon, a storm began to rise. Dust and sand whipped across the landscape, turning the world into a shifting sea of red. Elias and Saren took shelter in a small cavern, its walls warm from residual geothermal energy. Do humans often survive storms like this? Saren asked, watching him as he checked his equipment. We're tough, Elias said simply. Sometimes too stubborn for our own good. Saren smiled faintly. That may be why your species endures. They shared a moment of quiet. The wind roared outside, but inside the cavern they could hear nothing but their own thoughts. Elias realized that for all her calm, Saren was not invincible. She relied on him as much as he relied on her. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Elias jumped to his feet, gripping his sidearm. Saren's armor glowed faintly as she rose. The Nullborn are nearby, she said. They are attracted to energy. The pod's pulse may draw them. Elias nodded. Then we need a plan. Fast. Saren crouched, her fingers tracing lines in the dust. We can use the terrain. The ridges, the rocks, the wind patterns. If we combine my shields with human tactics, we can hold them off long enough to warn the Helian fleet. Elias considered the plan. So we fight? Then we escape? Yes, Saren said. But not just fight. We need to show them that humans are not easily erased. That your species survives. Elias's heart swelled. That was the essence of humanity. He realized the courage to face the impossible, the willingness to stand tall even when the odds were against them. He thought of his homeworld, of Earth, of the people who believed humans were young, weak, or unprepared. He thought of what it would mean if he failed. No, he said firmly. We fight and we survive. For our people, Saren nodded, clearly approving. Then let us begin. The storm outside intensified. The air shimmered with energy as small fragments of the Nullborn appeared on the ridges beyond the cavern. Elias and Saren moved silently, using shadows and ridges as cover. She raised her hand, creating a shimmering barrier that deflected the initial bursts of energy. Elias fired from a distance, targeting weak points in the creature's cores. The battle was chaotic. Dust filled their vision. Energy bolts lit the night. Elias marveled at how Saren combined advanced technology with strategic thinking, and he realized for the first time how humans could surprise even the most experienced alien warriors. His instincts, his improvisation, his stubborn determination, all of it made a difference. After hours of struggle, the Nullborn began to retreat, driven back by the combination of human ingenuity and Helian power. Elias and Saren stood at the edge of a ridge, breathing heavily, watching the red horizon calm slightly. You did well, Saren said softly. Your people. They are strong. Elias smiled, exhausted. We're more than strong. We endure. That's the human way. Saren nodded, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. I see that now. Perhaps humans are ready for more than I thought. Elias glanced at her, noting the calm determination in her expression. And you? Are you ready to trust humans? She looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the dust and faint starlight. I am learning, she said, but trust is earned. Elias's lips curled into a small grin. Then let's earn it. Together. As the storm faded, the two of them stood in silence, the dust fields quiet once again. They had survived the first wave, but both knew that greater challenges awaited. And yet, for the first time, they felt a band of partnership between two species. Born in the harshest of conditions, the night stretched on, and the stars began to emerge. Elias thought of the journey ahead, of battles yet to come, and of the new alliance he was forging with Saren. He knew humanity was still young in the galaxy, but he also knew that together, humans and Helians could face anything. And somewhere in the distance, Beyond the red dust and the rising storm, new threats stirred. But for now, Elias and Saren prepared. They had a mission, a purpose, and the spark of something far greater than survival, the beginning of hope. The red dust of the field swirled violently as Elias and Saren prepared their defenses. The sky glowed faintly orange from the rising suns, but the light did little to warm the cold tension that hung in the air. Every ridge, every rock, every dip in the ground mattered now. They were not just defending a crater, they were defending the future of multiple. Worlds Elias adjusted his equipment for the 10th time, checking energy cells, weapon calibrations, and his communicator. The Nullborn would not wait. He could feel their approach in the vibrations of the ground, in the low hum of the air. They were coming faster, stronger, more determined. Saren floated beside him, her silver armor reflecting the dim sunlight. Her hands glowed faintly as she projected shields along the ridges. A lattice of energy ready to catch and repel the first wave. "Are your people ready for this?" she asked softly. Elias glanced at her, determination in his eyes. "Humans. Always. We may be young, but we are stubborn. And stubbornness works better than power sometimes." Saren allowed a small smile. "Good. You will need it." From the distance, shapes began to form, twisted, metallic, and glowing with corrupted energy. The Nullborn were coming in greater numbers than before, their forms constantly shifting and reforming as if the storm itself carried them. Their humming and crackling energy filled the air, making the red dust vibrate. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon. "They're larger this time," he said, squinting, "and more aggressive." "Yes," Saren confirmed. "But we have something they do not expect. Human creativity combined with Helian technology," Elias smirked. "That's a dangerous combination for anyone who underestimates us." Together, they took positions. Saren's shields created narrow channels in the terrain, guiding the Nullborn into areas where Elias could use improvised traps. Rocks, cables, and portable energy charges were all arranged carefully. Every move had to count. One misstep, and the Nullborn could overwhelm them. The first wave struck, like a wall of glowing metal. Elias fired rapidly, targeting weak points Saren indicated. The Nullborn swirled around, reforming almost instantly, but the traps slowed them. Some fell into the pit traps Elias had dug. Others were caught in energy nets Saren projected from her hands. "This is just the beginning," Saren said. "They will adapt. Be ready." Elias adjusted his aim, noticing patterns in the creature's movements. Humans had an advantage Saren did not anticipate: unpredictability. He darted from ridge to ridge, luring the Nullborn into vulnerable positions. Each shot, each movement forced the creatures to shift their form, exposing weak points. Hours passed like minutes. The sun shifted, casting long red shadows across the battlefield. Dust and energy sparks filled the air, making it hard to see. But through it all, Elias and Saren fought together seamlessly. They were no longer just human and Helian, they were a team. Saren raised her hands high, creating a massive protective dome around the pod and surrounding terrain. "This will last only minutes." She shouted over the roar of energy and wind. "Use them wisely." Elias nodded, moving quickly to deploy a final series of energy disruptors he had rigged with Saren's guidance. They were unstable, risky. They could destabilize the Nullborn cores temporarily enough to drive them back. As the Nullborn surged, Elias activated the disruptors. Waves of energy shot outward, colliding with the creatures. They shivered violently, fragments of energy scattering into the red dust. Saren amplified the effect, sending pulses through the shield that vibrated through every particle of the storm. One by one, as the Nullborn fell, their glowing forms flickering like dying stars. Some were destroyed outright, others retreated in confusion, their energy scattered and unstable. The remaining creatures hissed. Whirling in the dust before disappearing into the horizon, Elias sank to the ground, exhausted but alive. Saren lowered her shields, her armor still glowing faintly from the effort. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, breathing heavily, watching the calm return to the red dust fields. "You did well," Saren said finally. Her voice was calm but carried pride. "Your people. They are stronger than I believed." Elias wiped sweat from his forehead, smiling despite the exhaustion. "Humans endure. That's what we do." Sarah tilted her head slightly. "Endure. Yes. And adapt. I see now why your species has survived when others have fallen. Courage, creativity, and determination. You are remarkable." Elias chuckled softly. "Remarkable is one word for it. Crazy might be another." Sarah allowed herself a faint laugh. "Perhaps both." The wind began to calm, and the dust settled into soft rolling mounds. Elias stood, brushing himself off. He looked toward the horizon, where the last remnants of the Nullborn had vanished. He felt a sense of triumph, but also awareness. This was not the end. Other threats would come. Other challenges awaited. But for the first time, he felt confident that humanity could stand tall in the galaxy. Saren walked beside him, her gaze distant as she scanned the skies. "The Helian fleet will arrive soon. They will assist in containing the remaining Nullborn. Your actions have given us time, and time is the greatest gift." Elias nodded. "Then we've done our part together." They returned to the pod, where Elias had already begun helping Saren repair minor damages. Sparks flew as tools and hands worked in perfect rhythm. Even in the quiet moments after the battle, the teamwork between human and Helian was seamless, as the pod's systems hummed steadily once more. Saren removed her helmet fully, setting it down carefully beside her. Elias watched her face, noting the calm strength and quiet beauty that had first captivated him. She stepped closer, her silver eyes reflecting the dim sunlight and the last glimmers of the fading storm. Elias could not help but whisper again, though this time it was not only about discovery. "Beautiful." Saren looked at him, her expression softening. "Yes," she said. "It is beautiful. The courage of your people and the bond we have formed." He felt a warmth in his chest he had not experienced in a long time. It was the warmth of hope, of trust, of knowing that even in the vast, dangerous universe, humans could stand as equals among the stars. A low hum came from the horizon. Saren turned, eyes narrowing. A small fleet of Helian ships had arrived, sleek and silver, descending from the skies in precise formation. Energy beams flashed as they prepared to sweep the remaining dust fields for Rogue. Nullborn fragments. Elias stepped beside Saren, feeling a surge of pride. "Looks like the cavalry is here," yes, Saren said. "And your people will be remembered. Humans are no longer young in the galaxy. You are." Ready, Elias glanced toward the horizon, imagining Earth, Mars, and the colonies beyond. Humanity had survived countless challenges before, but now they faced the unknown, the vastness of space itself. And yet, standing beside Saren, he felt ready for anything. The Helian fleet landed, and their ships formed protective rings around the dust fields. Saren turned to Elias, her eyes meeting his. "You have done well, human. You have shown that courage and determination can rival the greatest technology. You have earned respect." Elias smiled faintly. "And you've shown me that even in the most alien places, cooperation and trust can change the outcome." She placed her hand lightly on the pod. "Together, we have made a difference. Together, humans and Helians will face the stars." For a moment, they stood in silence, letting the words sink in. The dust fields were calm now. The storm passed, and the red sands glimmered faintly under the twin suns. Life, courage, and determination had triumphed over chaos and destruction. Elias looked at Saren one last time. "So, what's next?" he asked. She smiled. "Next, we prepare. The galaxy is vast, and threats are endless. But your people, they are ready. And together, we will meet them." He nodded, feeling a swell of pride. Humanity had survived, not through sheer power, but through courage, creativity, and the willingness to face the impossible. And in this, the humans and their new allies stood tall in the galaxy. As the Helian fleet lifted off to patrol the dust fields, Elias watched the horizon. Somewhere beyond, new challenges waited, but he was no longer afraid. Humans had proven themselves, and the galaxy would know their name. And standing beside him, Saren removed her helmet fully once more, her calm gaze meeting his. Elias smiled, the words almost escaping before he whispered again, "Beautiful." Saren nodded, a soft acknowledgement of both the moment and humanity itself. Together they stepped toward the pod, ready to face the future, ready to explore, ready to stand tall in a universe that had underestimated humanity for far too long. The stars began to emerge, one by one, shining faintly over the red dust fields. And in that light, humanity's courage and determination shone brighter than ever.